Hello and welcome to Pensions in 10 with me, David Brooks, and my colleague this week, Fiona White. Thank you, Fiona, for joining me, so I'm not on my own this time. And this week, we take a look at Generation Z and the challenges they face. We also look at the tax coding around lump sums at HMRC and what the stats say and what the process might be or should be or could be. And then finally, I get in a right old muddle about Just's deal with Brookfield Wealth.
So Dave, what's your thoughts on like Gen Z and facing like the pension crisis? You know, lots of things going on for them, lots of money issues. What's your take?
Yeah, well, actually, there's a piece I saw in the Times that I couldn't really resist sort of highlighting. It seems to be a good collection of a number of different studies from different financial institutions. You've got Skipton Building Society, you've got Hamptons, sort of estate agents, and even our friends at Barnett Waddingham. Probably shouldn't say competitors' names on this, but anyway, our friends at Barnett Waddingham also wading in, and it's a really good summary of really the challenges that Generation Z. I can't bring myself to say Gen Z, but the challenges those people have. And, I was just reading it in the context of, we have the Pensions Commission and they're going to be looking towards the future of pensions saving and how that can work. And yeah, this list, there's probably about 7 or 8 things I'll try and just quickly sketch through. I'll have to keep looking over here because I can't remember them all, but they're over here. So starting with like high student debt. So the average student in 2024 came out with around £53,000 worth of student debt, which is just an astonishing number. For someone like me, I went through university, I didn't come out with any debt. So 53,000 of debt, of which are only half people are actually going to be able to repay it. But the interest is around 8.5%. So the monthly repayments are barely covering the interest for some of those people. So I think when you hear that, for people who may not have been involved with that, you just think, wow. Falling wages, so their wages fell by 0.2%, while baby boomers' salaries rose by 4.8% over the same period. The rise of AI, so there's lots of jobs uncertainty, entry-level jobs reducing by a third since 2022. Unaffordable housing, so the average house price for first-time buyer was £223,000. Again, if you can imagine that.
I saw that was about 100 grand more than sort of 10 years ago. It's
exactly,
madness.
2007, 143,000. It's just the rate of increase is just unsustainable. The lack of savings, 18% of Gen Zers have no savings. 27% have no spare cash after their essentials. And you get into the pension side of things. People aren't saving enough into their pensions. Retirement ages are receding. It just seems to be just a massive list of issues. And actually, there was a survey in there as well. I think that might be the Barnett Waddingham one about people wanting to retire in their late 50s, early 60s. These Gen Zers wanting to do that. And the chances of them doing that are virtually zero. They interviewed some young people as well, and they're saying how their parents and grandparents retired in their 50s thanks to defined benefit pensions. That's almost certainly not going to be the option for them. So I think this is just highlights just what a massive challenge it is. It's all very easy to say people need to save more, but what money? When you have people with £53,000 worth of debt and no spare money, where is the money going to come from to save? And I think that's a massive issue. And then people wanting to retire early. Well, there's aren't many levers you can pull in pensions. You either get miraculous investment returns, you pile loads of money in, or you pay for a long time. Allow time to do the work for you. And I think for a lot of people in sort of that Gen Z group, they need to perhaps think about working longer. The state pension is going to be rising for them to be 68 by 2046. Who's to say it won't go up to 69 through the 2050s? So and into the 2060s. So I think it just highlights. It's a great piece. We'll put a link in it in the comments. I think it really does give a really good summary of the challenges that group of people face.
I think auto enrollment has helped to a degree, I suppose. But is that going to be enough? If you don't opt out of it, especially, is it going to be enough?
Some of the tweaks that could have been made from the 2017 review to bring people in at a younger age and changing the salary bands and things like that could have had better outcomes, but that hasn't happened. And so that sort of stuff might need to happen for I don't know what the next generation is. What's after Generation Z?
I'm not sure what it is.
I don't know what it is. Whoever the next lot are, maybe we're thinking about them and what we need to do, what we got wrong for the generation that came after the baby boomers, what we've now got getting wrong for the Generation Zers, what we need to do for the next generation. Okay, Fiona, you're going to bring us up to date with the quarterly stats from the HMRC on sort of reclaiming tax, but also where are we with the tweaks to the system to make that work better?
Yeah. So the stats have now recently been issued. Over 500,000 people have had to reclaim overpaid tax since 2015, so the last decade, last 10 years. That's equating to £1.5 billion worth, which is now being repaid to people, which is phenomenal. It's a lot. Quite ridiculous when you think about it. But there's still calls for further simplifications of the process and everything, but they're putting in some changes to sort of their framework and process to make sure that people are put onto the correct tax codes quicker, so that they don't have to try and claw that money back one way or the other. The process changes should help to reduce the need of intervention from members, from savers, from pensioners, so that they don't have to go through having to fill in forms or send through documents, contact the HMRC, because that's, everybody, when they ring the HMRC, it can be a long drawn process. Sometimes it's super quick, but it's just not really acceptable for people to have to go through this on something which should be straightforward and straight through processing. So when you're looking at the numbers, it's a lot of people that hopefully going forward should see a difference in their tax codes being updated.
I suppose the issue is that the solution is for a change to the cumulative tax code. And so if you have a one-off taxable lump sum from a scheme and no further payments, you are going to have to go through that process. I think if you have a series of lump sums, then or you have a lump sum and then some further income for some reason, then the situation could be resolved for you more quickly. But it feels like for most people who have a trivial commutation that's taxable or an off plus that's taxable, and the only payment from that scheme, you are going to have to fill in one of those forms still, and the solution probably isn't really much solution. So I suspect we're not going to see a big drop. I think we get around, I think it was 44 million, I think, last quarter, something like that. And it's been pretty constant now, and I think we are going to see that number go down massively. So, which is a shame, because like you say, it would be a lot easier for people if they could just get that done straight away when the payment is made.
Yeah. So if we now talk about some interesting news that was in the bulk annuity market this week, David?
Yeah. So this took a lot of people by surprise. I think it might have taken everybody by surprise. So Brookfield Wealth, who previously entered the annuity market, or sort of the bulk purchase annuity market, recently via Bluemont. They set up Bluemont, and all of a sudden Brookfield have now purchased Just, who are a well-established annuity provider for many years, and so they're now going to merge Bluemont and Just to create New Just. So Bluemont are going into Just. They'll be just be Just. Just, that name. The amount of meetings I've had talking about Just, when I say Just every time, it just does me. Anyway, so Just will continue, but I suppose from a broad picture, it looks like we're losing an annuity provider in the market. So people might be thinking about the competitiveness of the market. It doesn't really feel like that in a way, because Bluemont had only just joined us, and so it feels like we've now got a bigger, perhaps slightly stronger annuity provider in Just. And Just press release also talked about further developments into the DC space. So obviously we're seeing lots of interesting things over there with changes to the mega funds. So maybe Just are looking to try to get involved in some of those areas. Obviously you could argue that's the future of pensions. DC is where all the new money is going to be going, and so it's interesting they're talking about that as well. So it's subject to FCA approval as per usual. So there's no reason to think that won't go through. So very interesting development, and something that a lot of people out there doing annuity broking will no doubt update their clients about in more detail. So we just had to note it here. I said Just again twice in one sentence.
It's difficult with just.
I feel like I use the word just too much anyway in life. Maybe I'm but yeah. Anyway, so we've noted that here. So hopefully that's news to you and useful to you.
So hopefully you find all those topics interesting. You'll obviously get your weekly fix of Pensions in 10 next week with David and another colleague. But for now, thanks very much, and we'll see you soon.